All right, everybody, good morning. Take a moment to collect yourself, empty yourself, taking a few slower, deeper breaths. This morning's session is going to be on intensity of Anicca. Anicca is a Pali word which means change, not stable, impermanent, arising and passing away. And when I speak for myself, then perhaps of all the things that I practice, this is the one place where the mind likes to rest most naturally, most effortlessly, staying with the phenomena, the awareness of arising and passing, arising and passing. So this morning I'd like to guide all of you in a practice of clear awareness into anicca, which means arising and passing. The phrase you might have heard is, "This too shall pass. This too shall pass." And today we'll go beyond that phrase and we'll make it really experiential. So it's not just the intellectual concept of this too shall pass, it's the actual knowing of it. It's the unshakable knowing of it. And I want to say one more thing before we start. That when I first began meditating, this was actually quite a hard concept for me to get, because the teacher kept emphasizing that everything changes, everything is impermanent. But for me, it did remain a very heady idea. And for example, I would remember sitting and meditating, and there would be some unpleasant sensations, unpleasant experiences that would arise. The leg would pain, for example. And I would tell it, you're impermanent, you're going to change, you're not going to be there forever. And yet, that would not bring peace of mind. So I didn't know what I was doing wrong until I met my teacher, and he explained to me that it's not about trying to convince yourself that everything will pass, everything will change. It's about experiencing it. So he guided me to bring my attention more carefully to my own experience and notice how things change, fluctuate, arise, pass away. Actually noticing it, not affirming it, not believing it, realizing it. And that very simple insight was huge for me. And it opened the door to what we call equanimity, balance of mind. So that's my intention for all of us today, that we actually experience change, not just think about it, not just affirm it, not even just believe it. And this is one of the most powerful practices that I can share with all of you. All right, so assume a comfortable position and let us start this exploration of anicca. Bring your attention to the sounds you're hearing. And almost anywhere you are these days, there will be some kind of ambient sound. And then, of course, there's the sound of this voice. Noticing sound. And now also noticing how all sound has some kind of arising, some kind of passing away. So I want you to zoom into sound and notice its vibrational quality, its fluctuating quality, its changing nature. It might be a continuous sound, still changing. Might be a discrete sound, comes and goes once in a while. Still changing. In fact, to be able to hear a sound of any kind implies the movement of pressure waves in the air, which vibrate the eardrum, which are then picked up, those vibrations are picked up by nerve endings, which lead to the experience of sound. In other words, every sound is automatically change. Without change, there's no sound. So now experience this even more carefully. Anicca, anicca, changing, changing. And the direct experience of change, not just the idea of change, really seeing it, really noticing it. For the rest of this practice, sounds won't disturb you. You have understood their changing nature. And notice one more thing about sound. It's not exactly under your control, is it? Comes and goes by itself. You might make an effort to move to a quieter place, but still you can't exactly control sound. In other words, it's happening outside of your direct control. So notice how it changes without your permission. Comes and goes without your permission. Bring your attention to the breath. And notice the flow of breath. And again, notice change, anicca. There is the beginning of the breath. There's the turning of the breath, the beginning of the out breath. And so on. Constant change. Anicca, anicca. Some of life's most difficult experiences can become bearable if we face them one breath at a time. One breath at a time. One breath is bearable. 2 breaths becomes unbearable. Just this breath. Just this part of the breath. and also some of life's most beautiful experiences. Get deeper, get enhanced, one breath at a time. It leads to a deeper connection, a kind of merging. So again, experiencing change at the level of breath. And you might be able to control your breath once in a while, manipulate your breath. But ultimately, breath is happening without your permission. Notice the changing nature of breath. Anicca. I'll now mention different body parts. Notice the sensations, the feelings in those body parts. Top of the head. Just become really attentive. Any feeling, any sensation, any experience, top of the head. Whatever you experience, notice very carefully some kind of arising and passing, with a pulsing sensation or a tingling sensation or a warm or a cool sensation. If you notice very carefully, it's not stable, it's constantly changing. Back of the head. So as I mentioned different parts of the body, just become highly attentive. Focus exclusively on that part of the body. Zoom in and notice change of some kind. Notice arising, notice passing. Sometimes rapidly, sometimes slightly slower. Forehead. Eyebrows. Both the eyes. Both the cheeks. Noticing change. Whatever you're experiencing, and zooming in on its characteristic of anicca, change. Lips, chin, throat and neck. Shoulders. Upper arms. Careful attention to the upper arms. Just noticing any experience and its quality of change. Lower arms. And really experience it. Make it your direct experience, not a mental concept anymore. Palms of the hand. For many people, palms of the hand and soles of the feet are a relatively more accessible place to notice change. Check. Can you feel anything on the palms of your hand and the fingers, back of the hand? And notice the changing nature of all experiences there, how they arise and pass away without your permission. They're happening by themselves. Up or up, by itself, by itself. Whenever you need more balance of mind, one of the simple ways is to bring the attention to the palms of the hand, or the soles of the feet, or the breath, and notice change for a while. Rather quickly, the mind gets balanced. Bring the attention to the chest. And it's not about imagining what the chest looks like, it's about experiencing, feeling. So cultivate, develop this aspect of just feeling, simply feeling, and noticing the characteristic of change. Anicca, deep inside the chest. Wherever there is life in the body, there is also some sensation, vibration, feeling. Might be pleasant, might be unpleasant, might be neutral, but it's always there. We develop our capacity to notice and notice change. Come to the belly and abdomen. Notice carefully. At skin level, muscle level, at organ level. Just feel. This kind of practice brings enormous inner confidence that you can face whatever comes up in life. You can meet it with clarity, with wisdom, because it arises and passes away. It's so momentary. Experience the upper back. And the lower back. And the whole back. Can you find at least one part of the back where you clearly feel something? And then zoom in further. Notice how it's arising and passing, changing, fluctuating, dancing. Without your permission, very important, happens by itself. This is how you start moving at the speed of life and pierce the illusion that you are in charge over here. You realize things are happening. Whether you notice or not, like it or not, the flow of life continues. Come to the hips, the lower parts of the body. Come to both the thighs. Come to both the knees. Come to both the calf muscles. And the lower part of the lower leg, down to the ankles. Notice both the feet and the soles of the feet. And like we said, this is one more place to clearly notice change. Palms of the hand, soles of the feet, and the breath. These are your three go-to places when life gets too overwhelming. And even a few minutes here, directly experiencing anicca, change, arising and passing. Experiencing it, not thinking it, not imagining it, experiencing it. This is liberating. This equilibrates the mind. This awakens a deeper wisdom, an intuitive understanding that all is well and this too shall pass. Now experience the entire body, head to toe. Forget what the body looks like, just experience the body as a field of sensation. All kinds of sensations. And a field of constantly changing, fluctuating, constantly moving sensations. It's happening without your permission. Birth happened without your permission. Life is flowing whether you like it or not. And it'll extinguish itself at some point. And that's totally fine. And expand further, not only feelings and sensations, thoughts themselves are arising and passing away. This is a little more subtle, but we're all capable of noticing this. Thoughts come and go, come and go. When I say banana, some image may arise, pass away. Or seem to stay, but it's never completely stable, is it? And one of the greatest reliefs in life is to realize that you are not your thoughts. This is truly a huge relief, huge relief. There are thoughts, there are feelings, there are experiences, but you are not that. Anicca. All kinds of thoughts arise. Pleasant, unpleasant. Clearer thinking, more distorted thinking. Calm and agitated forms of thinking. That's all right. We're not concerned about that. Just notice anicca, changing nature of thoughts. So now just step back and notice everything in the experience, whether it's sounds, whether it's breath, whether it's sensations anywhere in the body, whether it's thoughts of any kind, inner commentary or inner images. They're arising and passing away. They're coming and going. Anicca. And to know it through direct experience, this is the gateway to intuitive wisdom. going beyond knowledge now into self-verified wisdom. And this is a real foundation for you, for each one of us. Because here's the amazing paradox. Everything is changing, and the only constant is change. Everything is changing, everything is inconstant, except change itself. Therefore, the only refuge is change. Mystery of mysteries. The universe has a sense of humor. Change itself becomes a refuge in a world where everything changes. And now let us experience anicca, change, at any level, continuously for the next minute, without missing a beat. Tune in. And whatever came up, however you did, is beautiful. You're developing the capacity to stay with change, recognize change from moment to moment, and recognize how change is happening without your permission. It's just an aspect of life, it's not personal. Everything changes. It's not personal. And then the recognition comes, what is the point holding on so tight? When everything is changing as it is, why grasp so much? Grasping is bound to hurt. Two kinds of grasping. Grasping what's pleasant, and even grasping what's unpleasant, trying to push it away, requires grasping. Both of these states create such a huge amount of inner turmoil. So come back into the flow. Come back to the speed of life. Come back to the freshness of life, where everything is just coming and going by itself. The very act of observation frees up this flow, and life is smoother, more easeful, more graceful. Emotions are more balanced. Challenges are more transparent. Insight is more accessible. The direct experience of change is what we've been practicing today. Anicca, anicca, anicca. At any level, in any aspect of experience, notice arising, notice passing, notice change. Notice how it happens by itself. And you are strengthening this wisdom, this perception of anicca. It requires a thorough penetration of anicca to recognize the nitya or the nithya, the unchanging. When we thoroughly understand how everything is changing, then the awareness comes, oh, if it's all changing, there has to be a backdrop of non-change. Only on a backdrop of non-change can there be change. But that's not a thing. That is prior to and beyond anything that can be grasped. That is the essence, the substance. That is the screen on which the entire universe is projected. The screen on which this moment is projected. So the gateway to the timeless, the unchanging, is the direct experience of change, anicca. And one last thing I'll share for today is that the Buddha actually gives a guarantee. It's very rare that the Buddha gives this kind of a guarantee, where he says that if you practice wholeheartedly what we just did right now for half an hour, experiencing change, he says it cannot take more than 7 years, or 6 years, or 5 years, or 7 months, or 6 months, or 5 months, or 7 weeks, or 6 weeks, or 5 weeks, or 7 days, or 6, or 5, or 4, or 3, or 2, or 1. For the complete and utter ending of suffering. What a beautiful reassurance the Buddha gives us. That this practice done wholeheartedly, completely unbinds, dissolves the root of our ignorance, the root of our grasping and clinging. It requires earnest, steady practice. Sampajanya naranchati. Let not the wisdom of anicca be lost, even for a moment. So with that, I'm going to conclude today's session. And you can continue practicing for as long as you like. Lots of love. Be happy.